I began teaching in South Korea in 2013, and one of the biggest obstacles I had to overcome was adjusting to the new educational policies in the schools. Even now, I'm still adjusting to the vastly different education standards, as they drastically differ from my home country. Originally, I'm from the United States, where we tend to focus on individualism. This is really different than South Korea, which kind of uses a more collectivist system. When I was a student, we were encouraged to use group projects, collaborations, and this was a more student-centered system. It is the virtual opposite of the teacher-centered education system in South Korea that emphasizes rote learning as a way to prepare for all of their examinations.
In this video, I will examine the policy of using rote learning in South Korea for summative assessments and its effects on the students, teachers, and schools. The long history of using rote learning all began in China during the Han Dynasty. China used competitive examinations as a way to guarantee a fair opportunity for social mobility. Similar civil service examinations were spread to South Korea as they adopted these same Confucian values, the practices of which are still used in the modern-day classroom.
Confucianism strictly adheres to creating equitable testing and therefore uses the rote learning to assess their students' understanding of the material. Confucianism also focuses on pragmatic learning techniques, and so Confucian heritage societies like South Korea see education as a means to an end. It's all about improving yourself and doing so in an efficient manner.
Still to this day, South Korean society places a strong emphasis on education.
According to the annual survey conducted by National Statistics Korea in 2019, about 75% of students of all ages attended private tutoring after school for an average of 6.5 hours per week.
These institutes, commonly known as hagwons, regularly reinforce the same rote learning systems that are used in public schools. There is a lot of class time spent in preparation for the assessment tests.
This means teachers spend a lot of time drilling techniques for test taking, and even more time is spent memorizing. Buddy.
Washback is defined as the positive or negative effects of testing on the creation of a curriculum, the teaching methods used in the classroom, and finally, the learning behaviors of the students.
The grip that standardized testing has on the Korean education system is precisely why the use of rote learning is prevalent.
For teachers, there is an intense pressure to demonstrate high test scores for their students.
This means that educators are really encouraged to use rote memorization in preparation for the test. So our lessons are always the same. We stand at the front of the room just lecturing instead of using any kind of collaboration or group projects in a more student-centered kind of way. In my core classes, I have to highlight all of the key concepts from each lesson in the book in a very short amount of time. All of the test questions come directly from this book, so there's no more time to do anything else.
Fortunately, I do have a bit more freedom in my English club activities. Those classes allow me a bit of creative freedom, so I try to make varied, fun, and collaborative lessons for the students to enjoy.
I do find that the students respond a lot more enthusiastically to my club classes than they do the core classes, which kind of gives you a feel for how they are feeling too.
For the students, it's clear that the rote learning style is slowing their English acquisition.
They struggle to explain the concept in their own words, and they learn hundreds of vocabulary words but cannot use them in sentences.
The constant barrage of assessment testing pressures them to learn, not for fun or for their own interests, but to be top of their class. They're assured that this status will lead to a good high school, and, later on, the promise of a good college.
Consequently, students adapt these rote learning behaviors to achieve these results. Overall, it isn't difficult to understand that memorization definitely has its place in the EFL classroom. The achievements of South Korean students on their tests are recognized worldwide. They have some of the highest test scores. However, most EFL teachers tend to agree that the methods we use tend to hinder these results. There has to be a happy balance that we can find to reduce the washback effect. Maybe creating more student-centered environments in the classroom, giving schools and teachers more agency. They can create a creative curriculum and still maintain those high test scores that the Korean students always achieve.